Welcome back to my channel, and if you are visiting my channel for the first time, you are also highly welcome. In this lecture, we would be looking at the muscular relations of the ulna. I have put up a lecture on the ulna. If you've not checked that lecture out, please I'd advise you kindly go and do so. But for this class, we would be focusing on the muscles that are related to the specific regions of the ulna, and this will help us for our practical examination. If we try to use this image by the side, this is where we have the ulna heralded in white. In this lecture, we would be looking at the muscles that are related to its specific regions. So now let's dive into the muscles that are related to the ulna. But before we do this, in this lecture, we would be looking at a number of muscles that take their origin sites from the ulna, and we'll also be looking at a number of muscles that are inserted on this bone. So we'll be looking at 10 muscles that take their origin sites from the ulna, while we'll be looking at 3 of these muscles that are inserted on it. So now let's drive through this. So in this slide, we'll be looking at 10 muscles that take their origination from the ulna. And the first muscle we'll be looking at here is the supinator. Let's try and use the image by the side to illustrate where the supinator is specifically located. So first, let's try and put this image in its correct anatomical position so that it would be easy for us to understand. This region that is exposed in this upper image is the lateral view. This is the lateral view of the upper region of the ulna. And this region that is highlighted in black is the radial notch. If you go back to our lecture on the ulna, remember we described this notch as an indentation that receives the head of the radius. And this is why it is so referred to as the radial notch. Where we have a bigger notch here that is harrowed at this point, and this is what is referred to as the trochlear notch. This trochlear notch is seen to receive the trochlea of the distal region of the humerus. We highlighted this in details in our lecture on the ulna. So inferior to this radial notch is where we have this fossa created, and this is what is referred to as the supinator fossa. It is so referred to as a supinator fossa because the supinator muscle is said to have its origin from this point. And if you go more posteriorly behind it, there is a limit of this fossa that creates a ridge or an elevation, and this is what is referred to as a supinator crest. So the supinator fossa and the supinator crest is seen to provide the sites of origin for the supinator muscle, and this is what is projected here in this image. Don't forget that the supinator muscle has a multiple sites of origin. It is seen to originate from the supinator fossa. It is also seen to originate from the supinator crest. The additional sites of origin include the lateral epicondyle, and this is what is projected here in this image. It is also seen to emerge or originate from the radial collateral ligament. But it is important for us to note at this point that this supinator fossa and the supinator crest create the site of origin for the supinator muscle, and this is what is represented here in this image. So in case during examination the supinator fossa is marked and we're asked to state the muscle that is related to this region, we should know that it is the supinator muscle. So now let's go to the next muscle that is also seen to have its site of origin from the ulna, and this muscle is the pronator teres. The pronator teres is a muscle that is seen to have a superficial head and a deep head. Let's try and use this image at this lower point here to describe how the pronator teres is related to the ulna. This is where we have the ulna on this medial side, and on the lateral side is where we have the radius. We know that these two bones are seen to form the bony component of the forearm. So at this region here that is highlighted here in green is where we have the pronator teres, and this is specifically the superficial head of the pronator teres, and this is seen to emerge or originate from the medial supracondylar ridge. Don't forget that the medial supracondylar ridge is located above the medial epicondyle, and at this point is where we have the superficial head originating from, where we have the deep head seen to originate from the medial side or medial region of the coronoid process. This is where we have the coronoid process here, harrowed in dotted green. We already described the coronoid process also in our previous lecture on the ulna. So this is where we have the coronoid process, and on its medial region here is where we have the emergence of the deep head of the pronator teres, and it is seen to unite with the superficial head that is coming from the medial supracondylar ridge. Finally, they merge, and are seen to be inserted on the lateral region of the radius. And this is what is projected here in this image. Don't forget that this is the medial side and this is where we have the lateral side. So in the practical examination, and we have to describe the muscle that is related to the medial region or medial part of the coronoid process, we should know that it is the pronator teres. The next muscle is the pronator quadratus. From the name, pronator quadratus exerts the pronation of the forearm, but it is seen to exhibit or present a four-sided configuration. And this is specifically seen around the lower region of the shaft of the ulna. Don't forget that this is the ulna on the medial side, and at the lower region here of the shaft, we have the origin of the pronator quadratus. The pronator quadratus is seen to originate from the anterior surface of the lower region of the shaft of the ulna, and it is seen to be directed laterally, where it is finally inserted on the anterior surface of the radius. And this is what is projected here at this point. So if you look at it, it takes a four-sided configuration, and this is what is also shown here in this image. So at the lower part of the shaft of the ulna, specifically on the anterior surface, the muscle that is related to this region is the pronator quadratus. Then the next muscle is the flexor digitorum superficialis. And of course, it is seen to extend down to the digits. And this is why it has the digitorum. So now let's see where it is specifically located. This flexor digitorum superficialis is also seen to have two eggs. It is seen to have the humeroulnar head and also the radial head. Let's first go through the humeroulnar head. The humeroulnar head, specifically if you drive in through this name, you see that it has the humeral component and also the ulnar component. It is the ulnar component of the humeroulnar head that is related to the ulna, and this is understandable. So now let's use this upper image here to describe this. Don't forget that this is where we have the ulna on the medial side, and on the lateral side is where we have the radius. And this region here that is highlighted here in blue is where we have the humeral component of the humeroulnar head of flexor digitorum superficialis. And this is where it is seen to originate superiorly from the lower region of the humerus, while we have the ulnar component of the humeroulnar head originating from the medial surface of the coronoid process. Don't forget that this is where we have the coronoid process that is harrowed and dotted white, and the medial side of the coronoid process is what creates the site of origin for the ulnar component of the humeroulnar head of the flexor digitorum superficialis. Don't forget that the second head is the radial head, and this is seen to originate from the anterior surface of the radius. And these two eggs will unite and descend inferiorly, where they are finally inserted on the digits. So it is important that we highlight this. So specifically, if the medial region of the coronoid process is painted, we can also state that it is related to the flexor digitorum superficialis. Don't forget also that the medial region of the coronoid process is also related to the pronator teres. Then the next muscle we would be looking at is the flexor digitorum profundus. The flexor digitorum profundus is one of the deep muscles of the forearm region. So using this upper image too, it is seen to emerge from the upper 3/4 of the anterior and also medial surfaces of the ulna. So you see it emerging from the anterior surface of the ulna and also the medial surface of the ulna, specifically around the superior or the upper 3/4 of this region. It is also seen to emerge from the interosseous membrane around this region. So you see that this flexor digitorum profundus will descend down and also be inserted inferiorly around the digits. Then the next muscle is the flexor carpi ulnaris. Let's try and use this lower image to illustrate this. This is where we have the flexor carpi ulnaris. This flexor carpi ulnaris is seen to originate from the olecranon process, and it is seen to be directed down, where it will be finally inserted on the wrist. And this is what is highlighted here. These muscles are seen specifically in both the anterior and also the medial region. So now let's drive specifically to the posterior region, where we'll be highlighting muscles that also gives their origin site around the posterior region of the ulna. So the next group of muscles that we would be looking at here are muscles that have their sites of origins from the posterior region of the ulna. Remember, the muscles that we've highlighted previously are seen to originate from either the anterior or medial surfaces of the ulna. So now let's look at the muscles that will be seen to originate from the posterior surface. And the first muscle here is the abductor pollicis longus. The abductor pollicis longus is seen to emerge from the posterior surface of the ulna, and it is specifically seen around the upper half of the ulna. So now let's use this lower image to illustrate this. This is the posterior view of the ulna. So this is where we have the origin of the abductor pollicis longus. This abductor pollicis longus is seen to emerge or originate from the posterior border of the ulna, and it is specifically seen around the upper half of this region. And it is also seen to emerge from the interosseous membrane and also the radius around this specific level. Don't forget that this is where we have the ulna and this is where we have the radius. These fibers are collected together from the posterior surface of the upper half of the ulna, the interosseous membrane, and also the radius, and are driven inferiorly where they are finally inserted on the base of the tongue. So at the posterior surface of the ulna, the muscle that is related to this region, specifically around its upper half, is the abductor pollicis longus. Another muscle around the posterior surface of the ulna is the extensor pollicis longus. The extensor pollicis longus is seen to be directed more inferiorly, even though it is seen to take its site of origin also around the posterior surface. So you see it around the middle third, and it is seen to emerge around this point, and also the interosseous membrane. And they are finally seen to be inserted inferiorly to the distal phalanx of the tongue. And this is what is also projected here in this image. Then the next muscle that is also seen around the posterior surface is the extensor indicis. The extensor indicis is seen specifically around the lower 1/3, and it is seen to emerge also around the posterior surface and also the interosseous membrane, and finally seen to be inserted on the index finger. The last muscle that is seen here is around the posterior surface is the extensor carpi ulnaris. The extensor carpi ulnaris is seen to be highlighted here in red, and you see it extending from the posterior surface here of the ulna, and it's finally directed and inserted on the metacarpus. So you see that around the posterior surface, we also have a number of muscles, but they are located around specific regions. So around the upper region here, we have the abductor pollicis longus. Then if you go more inferiorly, around the middle third, we have the extensor pollicis longus. Then if you go more inferiorly, you have the extensor indicis, which is seen around the lower 1/3. So this is how these muscles are projected around the posterior surface of the ulna. And it is important that we highlight this. So in this slide, we've tried to describe the muscles that are specifically taking their sites of origin around the ulna. So now let's go to the muscles that have their sites of insertions on the ulna. Specifically here, we'll be looking at 3 muscles. And the first muscle here is the brachialis. Don't forget the brachialis is one of the muscles located in the anterior compartment of the arm region. I already described this muscle in our previous lecture on the muscles of the arm. If you've not also checked up that lecture, please kindly go and do so. The muscles of the arm is seen to be divided into the anterior and the posterior component. The anterior component is seen with one superficially placed muscle and 2 deeply embedded muscles. One of the deeply embedded muscles is the brachialis, and it is seen to originate from the anterior distal half of the humerus, and finally seen to be inserted on the ulnar tuberosity. So let's try and use this image by the side to illustrate this. This is where we have the medial side, and on this other side is where we have the lateral side. On the medial side, we have the ulna, and on the lateral side, we have the radius. And this anterior upper extension of the ulna is where we have the coronoid process. And inferior to this coronoid process, we have the rough region that is referred to as the ulnar tuberosity. So if you look at this image, at this upper region, where this arrow is pointing is where we have the humerus. So you have the brachialis emerging from the distal anterior half of the humerus. And this is what is seen here in this image. And the fibers of this muscle are directed inferiorly, where they are finally inserted on the ulnar tuberosity. Don't forget that this is where we have the ulnar tuberosity. So if the ulnar tuberosity is painted in your practical examination, you should know that it is the brachialis that is seen to be inserted around this point. The next muscle is the triceps brachii. The triceps brachii muscle is seen around the posterior region of the arm. This triceps is seen to have 3 heads. It is seen to have the medial, the lateral, and also the long head. These 3 heads are finally seen to unite to form a common tendon. The common tendon of these 3 heads are then seen to finally insert on the olecranon process. But specifically, it is seen to insert on the posterior region of the superior part of the olecranon process. If we go back to our lecture on the ulna, in that lecture, we described that the olecranon process has 5 surfaces, and one of the surfaces is the superior surface. The superior surface is further divided into the anterior part and the posterior part. So specifically, it is within the posterior part of the superior surface is where we have the insertion point of the common tendon of the triceps brachii. So if you try to use this image by the side, this is where we have the lateral view of the upper surface of the ulna. This upper region here is where we have the olecranon, and specifically this surface is the upper or the superior surface of the olecranon process. This surface is seen to have the anterior part and the posterior region. The anterior part in our previous lecture on the ulna, we described that is related to a bursa, while the posterior part is related to triceps brachii muscle, and this is what is highlighted here in blue. So you see that the upper surface of the olecranon process is specifically around the posterior part is related to the triceps brachii muscle. This is where it actually takes its site of insertion. Then the next muscle is the anconeus. The anconeus is specifically seen around the posterior region of the elbow, and it is seen to be inserted on the lateral part of the olecranon process. If you look at this image up here, this is where we have the humerus, and this is where we have the lateral epicondyle. Don't forget that this is the lateral side and this is the medial side. So we should expect that the lateral epicondyle will be located or positioned around the lateral region. And this specific point is where we have the origin of the anconeus. So it's seen to originate from the lateral epicondyle and finally seen to be inserted on the lateral region or part of the olecranon process. Don't forget that this is the olecranon process, this is the medial side, and this is the lateral side. So it is seen to be inserted on the lateral surface or lateral region of the olecranon process. If you try to use this image also by the side, don't forget that this is the lateral view and this is the upper surface, and this is where we have the lateral surface that creates the insertion site for the anconeus. Now let's try and use this lower image to further illustrate how the triceps and also the anconeus are inserted. If you look at this region, this is where we have the posterior view, and this is where we have the lateral region of the posterior view, and on this other side is where we have the medial side. Don't forget that the ulna is specifically located around the medial side of the forearm, while the radius is positioned laterally. And this region that is harrowed in red is the olecranon process. This olecranon process is seen to have specific surfaces. Don't forget it has a superior surface, and specifically around the posterior part of the superior surface is where we have the insertion site of the triceps brachii muscle. While on the lateral side here that is harrowed at this point is what creates the insertion site for the anconeus. So it depends on the specific regions of the olecranon process that is painted in your practical examination. It is important for you to note that the different subsurfaces of the olecranon process are related to different muscles. So let's take this quiz in evaluating ourselves. This is the ulna, and the different specific regions are painted. And of course, we should be describing the different muscles to specific region. So if you look at this upper region, this is where we have the olecranon process. If you go more inferiorly, this is where we have the coronoid process. Around the medial side of the coronoid process, we have the flexor digitorum superficialis. Then if you go more inferiorly, still around the medial side of the coronoid process, we have the pronator teres. If you go to the anterior region, specifically inferior part, the coronoid process, we have the insertion site for the brachialis, and this is specifically inserted on the ulnar tuberosity. If you go more inferiorly to this region, still within the anterior surface, we have the flexor digitorum profundus, and this is what is marked here at this point. Then if you go more inferiorly, still around the anterior surface, we have the four-sided pronator muscle, and this is what is highlighted here in blue. So you see that the anterior surface of the lower region of the shaft is painted, and the muscle that is related to this region is the pronator quadratus. So you can also look at further illustrations or examples on the posterior surface of the ulna, where you'll be attending also the specific muscles that are related to the painted regions. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you find this video useful, especially in your practical examination.